Welcome to another video of Agent Organic. Well, today I want to show you how do you get high scores for missions in Marvel Avengers Alliance, because I know there is a lot of confusion about this. People will tell you that the best way to get high scores are tabs, team up bonuses that you get from pairing characters that are similar to each other or that have a special relationship. For example, Hawkeye and Black Widow have very high tabs. Well, a tab is worth 5 sorry, 50 points. Each tabs is worth 50 points. So for example, she Red in a layer, the friend enemies that have Black Widow and Hawkeyes, that means that they get 300 points, if I remember correctly, of 3 points. But that is not always the best case. For example, here are in Spec Ops Mission 1, when you'll see lots of Magia mobs. For example, Scrappers are kinda tough for the duo. Obviously, Black Widow is Infiltrator and that's Scrapper, but also Hawkeye is really struggles against those bodyguards because of the long range resistance, the counterattacks, the protection. So I advise you to not use them. In fact, what I wanted to show you is that you don't need high tabs for high score. The most important thing is to play well. You'll see at the beginning of the video there was a Spider-Woman and Phoenix team up. Though has like 50 points, like the lowest tab possible, but that's not important. The most important part to playing well for me is to have a good survivability, right? For example, in this fight, I don't think I got hit once, meaning that my survival points are at 500, which is around 10 tabs, which the current maximum is 9. So just by don't getting hit, or rather, having 100% of your HP, like for healing, you'll have a much higher score. You also see that perfect strategy. That means flawless victory. If you heal, you lose that perfect strategy. So it's only for not getting hit. That's another 10 tabs worth it. 1,000 points by trying not to get hit. I know it's tough and it's always isn't always reliable. But what can you do as a player to get close to this? First is to be aware that always, for now in beta, A turns from enemies and allies are alternating, and always the hero's team starts. For example, Mr. Fantastic move first. So you have to take into consideration which enemy to target first. And my advice is the next one, the one that get the first move. If you can one shot them, you have the turn of the next hero without getting hit. Of course, this is a lot easier than said, but you'll get the point. For example, here I get a nice perfect strategy. Right now, I'm using the drill spotter that is kinda glitch, so maybe it's an exploit, but you can get double damage from using the digital spotter, then another weapon like the rocket's pistol that has really base power, but is not as high as, for example, Calls of Revenge. Meaning that if you use the previously said Calls of Revenge, you can replicate this kind of damage even without this glitch. Well, here I got hit because it's an infiltrator. I know Mr. Fantastic can take it, so it's okay. One thing you must remember is that don't frustrate yourself if you can do flawless victory. There's other ways. Also, you'll see that I'm trying, not always, but to one shot my enemies. If I one shot an enemy, I get 150 extra points, which are really good. Also, I tried to do a distress call that didn't work. If you kill with a distress call, you get 100 extra points. The same goes if you use damage over time, like bleeding, like burning. So, if you have access to those, like for the rocket pistol that had both of those dots, is also a good idea. Now, if I have a low HP enemy, is better to kill with dots or a distress call? The answer is a distress call. Why? Because dots will never get overkill, while distress call can get overkills. What is overkill? Well, if you kill an enemy with a strong move, for example, it, it goes for negative 30% if the enemy has 1000 HP and the damage over zero goes to 300, you get overkill. That is 150 points again. Massive overkill, I think, is around 50%, is 300 points. And massive overkill is 450 points. So, for example, I know a good advice is use character with daily crits, not only because they are likely to get one shot, but because you can use them to do massive overkills. Well, here, epic overkill, sorry. So this fight will get tons of points. Two epic overkills, 100, sorry, 1,200 points just for that. Do I get high taps also because I'm using Human Torch and Thing? They're kinda high, but they are not the most important part of the points, the score I will get for this mission, for this battle. Also, epic overkill. That's why Human Torch is a very good hero to use for this. He has self healing, fantastic overkill potential, one shot potential if you are fighting bruisers, but if not, you can burn it and have the overkills. And also, he's kinda glitched right now. Every time he gets hit by a character affected by a fire effect, it will make those character attacks also fire. And he's immune to fire. So, for example, the Magia Captain, as an tactician, will try to focus our dear Johnny, but if he's burned, he won't do damage. Well, here instead I using Luke Cage. You say I try to rotate characters? Maybe this is not the most efficient way. You could use your highest level characters, try to ISO them, to get those high scores, but particularly that's not the way I like to play. I play this game to have the characters, not only because I like Marvel, I don't love them, but I like them, but because I really think the variety is really fun. This game is really fun. So yeah, play Redux, support the depths. Well, here I kinda using a big glitch. If you have quick actions and free actions, you'll get extra turns next round. Well, you see, I use a healing, and I will heal him, even though I'm not gonna get hit again. This is not because I'm afraid of dying, but because I want the 500 vitality boost. See, Luke Cage and Spider-Man don't have really high tabs, but in that fight I got over 15,000 points. Well, here's a and we're nearing the boss encounter. Remember, for the boss, is always better to fight it alongside the mini boss because they get a multiplier boost. If it's only the mini boss 3, if it's the boss, is 5. If you fight them together, is 10. Um, 10 is bigger than 8, so that's why. Here I use Doctor Strange, not because he has a high tab with Widow, but because he's really good. Also kinda buggy, but he has healing, damage over time, not bad direct damage. His healing is overturned. Well, now also an other advice I can give you is stamina. If you can, don't recharge, and if you must recharge, try doing it 5 times because there is also a score boost if you don't recharge or recharge a lot. That is also a way you can do it. If you are like one enemy left and you don't want to lose the point for rounds, because remember, the longer you take, the less point you'll have. Up to a cap after 5 rounds is the same if you do it on 5 or 10. But if you have only one enemy left, I would suggest you to use stamina healing. That's the way that you don't recharge and you get the, I think it was 150 points. Also, using items is really good because there's also a, every time you use an item, starting from 5, you get 50 points. So, like I say, starting from 5, so you have 250 points, but it has a cap to 10 items. In that case, you get 500 points. But if you have 8, you have 400, so on, so on. Black Widow is really cool for that critical hit because it's a hidden deadly crit. I get tons of points because overkill, calling cavalry. Sorry, I do it too quick, but you'll see I got lots of points of that. Not by having hub tab, but by playing well. So that is my advice, and I'm gonna finish this battle. All this is pre-recorded, so if memory fails, is for that. Sorry. And then I'm going to do the Hammerhead boss fight, which is probably the was the toughest fight in the previous beta. So I was kind of nervous to do it, but I wanted to do the high score because you need 2 million points to get Mockingbird, and that's a lot. Previously in beta 5, I capped at like 300,000. So I was really slow to get her. I was like a week. But I tried to get better. I tried to optimize. And now I think we're gonna get a really high score. Someone might get really impressed. But I play a little too fast. So I'll have little trouble explaining, but I'll do it anyways. Here have a Hammerhead, which is a really hard boss. And my Black Widow is not level 9, nor she has the her uniform. I'll use Human Torch. Like I say, he's kinda broken right now. F- Thankfully, he get the first turn. He fails to one-shot the scientist, which is sad, but also you can you have to know to play around with not winning, failing those lag moments, and just to have fun. Have plan B, plan C. For example, I miss many of my hits, but I know scientist is born. He will die by dots. That's good because that's 100 extra points. Get a lucky miss. Use Human Torch against the Magia Assassin because Magia has a melee dodge, not a range dodge. I get for a heal because I want them to die from the dots. I get a little greedy. I could have used a lower attack for Widow so I can get more items in the middle because he's gonna die from dots. The bad thing about getting first turn with Human Torch is that if the enemies aren't burned, so you don't get the free crit, it's good when they are bruisers. But otherwise, you'll prefer to have Human Torch second or third turn. Uh, Magic Capitan attack Widow, which is surprising. I get free counter attacks, but most importantly, a 35% attack boost from combat reflexes. I got greedy again with Flying Kick. I should have targeted a Fire Chief, but and now I can't extend combat reflexes, but it's okay. We all get greedy sometimes. I Russian Sai is very good because low damage but apply dots, so I can get them closer to dying from dots without killing them. Johnny failed to kill him, but I can use Distro Skull and can get 100 extra points. Now, I wanna heal. My agent is really low. He can get really first down by Hammerhead. I got the lucky extra turn. I used the rocket pistol. I fell on an assassin again because they really have evasion. And thank God I healed him because look at the damage. Hammerhead stuns me. Get Black Widow get iso shot. She get absolutely mauled. My engine is also in a bad state. I missed the counter attack. Like you see, I got really unlucky, but I got my heals. Um, I know this battle won't have the rounds bonus, so I tried to play it low. Use my items, use the dots, not rush it. I want the hitman out. He's resistant to range damage, and he's protecting, so he's a pain in the ass. And also, uh, the more enemies you have on the field, the more damage you'll take, and the harder healing will become. So, like I said, don't rush it, but try to leave only one enemy alive. That's why you rush, usually, the enemy that has the highest damage potential. Here you see that I try to avoid using recharge. Maybe it wasn't the best plan. Maybe I should have recharged using many times, so I get really high scores. But okay, you can always optimize. Die from dots, both are really hard to overkill, so dots is usually safer, and I get the last flying kick, but no crit. I get the level up, and you see my score is over 100,000 by playing well. Not perfect, just well. I got greedy at the roulette, and that's it. I didn't want to use more gold. And there you have it. 500,000 points. In one go, I got 3 stars. Like I say, the most important part is not to have high taps like Thor or Hulk. You have to adapt to your enemies to play the game properly. Engage the mechanics, the type advantage, the items, the calls, etc. So, I hope this is useful for you. I hope you learn something, or at least that you have fun. Thank you for watching. Agent Aeroplanet over.